Pam Bondi entered the courtroom with the confidence of a seasoned prosecutor who had seen it all. Her sharp eyes scanned the room, aware of the tension thick in the air. Everyone knew this wasn't going to be a typical day in court, especially not with Judge Randall presiding. Judge Randall, once known for his commanding presence, had built a reputation for manipulating outcomes and strong-arming attorneys. Rumors of backdoor deals and unjust rulings followed him like a shadow. But today, his target wasn't an average lawyer, it was Pam Bondi. As the court session began, Judge Randall tried to assert dominance early. With a condescending tone, he interrupted Bondi's opening remarks, questioning her knowledge of basic legal procedures in front of the jury. His attempt to belittle her was clear to everyone present. Pam stood firm, unfazed by the interruption. She calmly reiterated her point, making it clear she wouldn't be intimidated. The jury watched closely, their expressions hinting they were already siding with her. Judge Randall's face twitched with frustration. He banged his gavel, raised his voice, and even threatened contempt of court. "You're not in Florida anymore, Miss Bondi," he said with a sneer. But the more aggressive he became, the more composed she remained, which only made him more desperate. As the day progressed, Bondi began to subtly expose inconsistencies in Judge Randall's past rulings. She introduced evidence unrelated to the current case, but relevant to a deeper issue: a judicial misconduct. Randall's demeanor shifted from arrogant to uneasy. Courtroom whispers grew louder as documents came to light showing Randall's pattern of favoring specific law firms in return for undisclosed financial gains. Each new page Bondi presented painted a darker picture of the judge who once thought he was untouchable. A special investigator seated silently in the gallery began taking notes. He had been assigned to monitor this trial. Given the growing suspicions about Randall, everything Bondi said was being documented in real time, and Randall didn't even notice. Randall attempted to shut Bondi down again, calling her line of questioning irrelevant. But Bondi revealed that the district attorney had approved her motion to investigate judicial behavior within this case. The courtroom gasped. Randall's expression froze. Bondi asked the court to recess, citing new evidence that needed to be reviewed by higher authorities. The judge, now visibly sweating, denied the motion and demanded the trial continue. But his voice cracked, betraying the fear creeping into his tone. As Bondi resumed, she dropped the bombshell: a sworn affidavit from one of Randall's former clerks detailing years of corruption, intimidation, and even case-fixing. The gallery erupted. The judge tried to silence the court but failed to command control. Security officers entered the room, not to maintain order, but to stand by the judge's bench. The special investigator signaled them, then walked forward to hand Randall a sealed document. He read it, and his hands began to shake. It was a warrant. The judge tried to speak, but his words were garbled. "This is a misunderstanding," he stammered, but the courtroom had already turned against him. Pam Bondi stood quietly, letting the weight of his crime speak louder than any argument. The warrant cited abuse of power, obstruction of justice, and bribery, all felonies. As the officer read the charges aloud, Randall's face turned pale. The jury, stunned just moments ago, now looked on in satisfaction. Justice was being served. Randall stood up abruptly and pointed at Bondi. "You set me up," he yelled, but his voice cracked mid-sentence. His face contorted in panic, and he looked to the courtroom as if searching for someone to save him. No one moved. No one cared. Pam Bondi remained composed. She didn't flinch, didn't celebrate. She simply nodded to the investigator, then gathered her notes. Randall, meanwhile, was being handcuffed in front of the very jury he once manipulated. The power shift was undeniable. He cried out, desperate, his voice trembling, "Please, I have a family. I can't go to prison." The very mercy he never showed others was now what he begged for. But the court wasn't moved by his tears. The time for accountability had come. As he was escorted out of the courtroom, his sobs echoed off the walls. The same halls where he once strutted with authority now witnessed his humiliation. His robes of power had become a symbol of disgrace, stripped from him in seconds. Outside, news cameras captured the moment. The footage of Judge Randall crying, handcuffed and broken, spread like wildfire. Across the country, Viewers watched in disbelief and satisfaction as Justice made a rare public appearance. Pam Bondi exited the courthouse to a crowd of supporters and reporters. She gave a brief statement. "This isn't just about one corrupt judge. It's about the system that needs to be protected by truth, not fear." Her words struck a national chord. Legal analysts began dissecting the case immediately. Headlines the next morning read, "Corrupt Judge Exposed in Courtroom Showdown." Bondi's role was hailed as bold and courageous, shining a light on the darker corners of the justice system. Inside the prison intake, Randall sat in silence. The very judges he once dined with were now avoiding him. He had become a cautionary tale, his name forever etched in the annals of judicial disgrace. Power lost, respect shattered, and no one left to call. Pam Bondi's case set off a chain reaction. More whistleblowers came forward, emboldened by her courage. Investigations reopened, and several more judges across the state found themselves under scrutiny. A reckoning had begun. Randall was eventually sentenced to a lengthy prison term. During his final statement, he wept openly, claiming remorse. But for the public, his tears meant little. Justice, for once, had spoken louder than influence, and no one was above the law. Pam Bondi's legacy grew. She became a symbol of strength in the legal world, not because she won a case, but because she dared to stand firm when others would have backed down. Her story became required reading for law students nationwide. Even years later, the trial remained a benchmark in legal circles. It wasn't just the fall of a judge, but the rise of accountability. Every courtroom, every gavel drop, now carried an echo of that unforgettable day. And for Randall, each day in his cell served as a reminder that the system he tried to exploit had turned on him. Justice had caught up, and it came with the price he never imagined he'd pay.